Okay, so this is pretty much one more episode of this mini season of AMC's The Walking Dead. Again, fairly light on the way of zombies. The title of this one was called Chupacabra. I think it should have been called Daryl's Really, Really Bad Day. There's still some minor fallout from the previous issue, where you had the revelation of a pregnancy. She hasn't told anybody yet, as well as Glenn and Maggie having sex. They're still looking for Sophia, and Carl is still recovering. They do a little bit of kind of a background to what would have happened in the middle of season 1. And bits and pieces of things are kind of revealed, but nothing truly earth-shattering. And the bulk of this episode actually deals with Daryl. Daryl, of course, is out looking for Sophia. And of course, he borrows a horse, which later adds to additional confusion between the two groups, as both the leaders are kind of not on the same page at all. So lots of tension between the two surviving groups of humans. Daryl's out and about, and a snake startles the horse that he's on, which then leads to him falling. And falling and falling and falling, and actually kind of getting impaled on one of his bolts, or quarrels, depending on how you want to refer to it. As well as getting pretty well beat up. He tries to make his way up the ravine that he's stuck in, has a problem, begins to fall again, because where it's stuck at, it's really making him hard for him to get full use of all of his core muscles. And then he begins to see his brother Merle, who we haven't seen since he cut his hand off in season 1. And you can tell it's not the real Merle because he still has both hands. And more or less, he's kind of calling Daryl a sissy and a girl. And it's really bizarre because you see Daryl end up going through that, fighting off a pair of walkers in his pretty much ridiculously weakened condition, getting himself all the way back to the main camp. Of course, by this time, he is ridiculously tired, and he actually had to skin and eat a squirrel. So he's got some blood on his face. He began to make a fetish necklace. And then somebody thinks they see a walker. And Daryl gets shot. But he gets winged. He gets winged. So it's a good thing there's a doctor at the house they're staying at. Because he's got to worry about, an injury here and a bullet grazing the side of his head, knocking him unconscious. But he did find a doll that was Sophie's. So that had been said, they got some idea that he might still be alive. Mitch might still be alive. However, Shane and Rick are going back and forth about, it's been so long. I see we cut our losses and keep on going. There's no reason to keep on stretching our group this thin. It's just not working out. And the big revelation of this episode, Maggie and Glenn are kind of passing notes back and forth during a kind of a group dinner, almost like a Thanksgiving sort of. And then when she finally reads the note, it's like, oh, what about kind of like a roll in the hay? Glenn then goes into where they're storing their hay and finds a small group of walkers. So I'm assuming what's going to be the last episode of this will probably deal with either Rick and his group leaving, and probably the revelation as to why they've got about 24 walkers locked inside a barn. Which would probably be why they've mentioned they've never had a problem with walkers. Well, if you're not shooting anything, so you just capture them and throw them into a barn, it might make it pretty easy to not really have a problem. Toss them in the barn, no way to get out, lock the doors, you really don't do a whole lot. So all in all, this one had more zombies than the previous one, and the fact that it had 2 beyond a small army of them. So again, fairly zombie light, and we still don't know. We know somebody is pregnant. We know who she is. Don't quite know who the father is yet. Don't know if we'll find that out this season or not.